De-Romanticizing Summer's The Grace of Youth. The Indian summer was at its peak, the sun casting an unforgiving glare over the bustling streets of Mumbai. Yet, for Ananya, the world outside seemed distant and irrelevant as she sat by the window in her room, staring at the pages of a book that she had read countless times. The words felt hollow today, like an empty vessel that could no longer carry her thoughts away from the reality that she was desperately trying to escape. Ananya was 17, at the cusp of adulthood, and burdened with the weight of expectations. Her parents had always dreamed big for her: medical school, a prestigious career, a life that would elevate family status. But Ananya had a different dream. She was in love with literature, with words that danced across the pages, weaving tales of love, loss, and life. Yet, her passion had always been dismissed as a mere hobby, a distraction from the real work of studying for entrance exams. Her days were spent in monotony of preparation, cramming for exams that would determine her future. Yet, she found solace in the evenings she spent with Vijay, her best friend and the only person who seemed to understand her. Vijay was her complete opposite. As the lyric from a song by Taylor Swift goes, he was the sunshine and I was the midnight rain. Where Ananya was introverted and contemplative, Vijay was outgoing and full of life. He had a knack for finding joy in the simplest of things: a spontaneous cricket match in the neighborhood park, a shared ice cream on a hot day, or just sitting by the seaside watching the waves crash against the shore. Why do you always brood so much? Vijay asked one evening as they sat on their favorite bench in the society's park. The bench was old, its wooden planks worn out, but it was their spot, a place where they could escape from the world and just be themselves. Why do you always talk so much? Said Ananya, who seemed to be unusually annoyed, reluctant to listen to him blabbering on and on. I may agree, I can be a little tough to bear with. He shrugged. You are very tough to bear with. It's just that she took a deep breath, holding herself back. But then it was just Vijay. He could never judge her. Unlike you, I don't really have much going on in my life. It's so static. I wake up every morning trying to motivate myself to be someone better, but I always fail. Ananya swallowed the lump which emerged in her throat. Vijay's countenance, always shining with bright joy, seemed to soften. He stretched his arms up and asked, Drama, right? Is that what you want? Ananya rolled her eyes at him. His arms now folded against his chest, he looked up in the sky, thinking. I can't really think of anything to tell you considering your much more advanced critical thinking. I might end up giving you a very helpful advice, but until and unless you don't find the same printed on some vintage paper in cursive letters by some 19th century poet, you're going to disregard it. Ananya laughed, and as she was about to counter Vijay, she heard a familiar electric tune of 70s music. As her shoulders moved with the highs and the lows of the rhythm, she smiled like the brightest and the happiest version of herself that anyone had seen in a long time, particularly Vijay. Surprised, he asked, Are you really vibing to this music? Which song is it? It's Benny and the Jets by Elton John, for God's sake. How come you don't know? Who's playing it? Her voice had a newfound touch of excitement. They followed the trace of those musical sound waves and found the source. Mr. Lohia, 67 years of age, had connected his phone to the community paid speakers which were meant to play the bhajans during the Janmashtami celebrations, which were about to take place in an hour or so. Like Ananya, Mr. Lohiya's movement were perfectly matched with the rhythm. Vijay laughed as he saw Mr. Lohiya's elder son Manohar trying to persuade him to stop the music. I envy him, said Vijay. Yes, he can actually dance good enough. That too. But I was wondering if life finally lets its suffocating grip off of you and all that hair on your scalp turns grey. All these youthful years, we spend someone being we actually are not. Ananya found a profound and unusual expression of sorrow on Vijay's face. She smiled brightly as she could and told him, "You're literally the other name for joy. However, even then, I wish you happiness every day." Her smile faded as Vijay started coughing loudly. It was a dry, persistent cough that seemed to drain the energy from him. Ananya noticed the change, but Vijay brushed it off, attributing it to the summer heat and dust. He suddenly doubled over a fit of coughing. Ananya's heart pounded in fear as she rushed to his side. "Vijay, are you okay?" Finally, he managed to catch his breath, his face pale and drawn. "I'm fine, Ananya. It's nothing, really." But it was not nothing. A few months before, Vijay had been diagnosed with acute lung fibrosis, a condition that would slowly take away his ability to breathe. The news hit Ananya like a tidal wave, pulling her into a current of despair she could not escape. Vijay's health deteriorated rapidly. The once vibrant boy who used to be her sunshine was now confined to his room, his laughter replaced by labored breathing. Ananya revisited him every day, but it was different now. Their conversations were laced with an unspoken sadness, a recognition of the inevitable. Those limited meetings soon ended when Vijay realized the potential infection that Ananya could catch in his company. Days went on, and so did the never ending coaching classes, the assignments, the exams, and the scoldings. Her parents did notice how the absence of her best friend's company was affecting her, but all they could preach was that to move on, for the world is packed with 8 billion people, and the absence of one practically does not matter. She was trying her best to be practical minded, to let go. Ananya switched her phone on to look at the time. It was already 2 or 4 a.m. Her desk and her mind were full of letters printed in grey hues on titanium white sheets. Her fingers swollen with hours of writing and practicing the questions from her module. She found a new text popping up in her notification panel. It was a text from Vijay. "Apparently, lung fibrosis does not disallow me to dance to the Benny and Jets." She laughed to herself, thinking of all the moments that they had shared together ever since they were 5. She slept with her head resting on the wooden desk through the entire night with all those memories in her heart. The summer that once promised freedom and joy became a season of loss. On a humid evening in July, Vijay passed away, leaving Ananya with a void that nothing could fill. The cause of death was declared to be a lack of oxygen supply. They had found him lying on the hospital floor with headphones on. One evening, a few days after the funeral, Ananya found herself back at the park. She sat on the old wooden bench, her eyes dry but her heart heavy. She clutched a letter in her hand, and it was a letter that Vijay had written before he died. With trembling fingers, she unfolded the paper and began to read. "Dear Ananya, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. You've always been my anchor, the one who kept me grounded when life tried to pull me away. I never really had the words to say out loud, even when I needed to. Embrace the tiny drop of sunshine, even when the night seems endless. I'll always be with you in every word you write, in every moment of silence you find peace in. Your intolerable best friend, Vijay." Tears finally spilled over as Ananya finished reading. She crumpled the letter in her hand, wanting to throw it away, to rid herself of the pain. But as she stood to leave, Vijay's words echoed in her mind. "Embrace the tiny drop of sunshine." She hesitated, but then slowly uncrumpled the letter. She read it again, this time letting the words sink deep in her soul. With a deep breath, she folded the letter carefully. As soon as she reached home, she placed it in her treasure box, the one where she kept her most cherished memories. And in the end, that tiny drop of sunshine was enough to guide her through the darkest of nights.